Hello and welcome back to the OnlyAccies channel. It's finished here. Stranraer 2, Hamilton 1, and yet again another completely unacceptable performance. I'm joined by 6 other Hamilton fans to discuss the game today. Guys, say what needs to be said. It's not acceptable, is it?
Well, if I can go first, guys, I don't usually stick my head above parapet. I'm going for years like Stephen, seen the Watson days before it, and this is the lowest I've known it. It's probably the worst since we got the 15 points taken off us, the lowest ebb. And obviously that was a culmination of lots of things that had happened to the club by the people running it. McDonald and Maitland are no bad. I think they've just lost the plot, and they've got this reputation for not sacking managers. But they need to do it now, in my opinion. I think everybody would agree with that. There's no reaction anywhere. There's no reaction to every result on the park. There's very poor reaction off the park, and the fans, like us, have had enough. It's just embarrassing. Full stop.
Yeah, I'm certainly not, turning up with pitchforks and torches, but I just think that 8-0 is bad. 8-0 is bad, and it's terrible to lose 8-0 to anybody. I don't care whether it's Rangers or not. It's terrible, and it embarrasses everybody, and it makes you, it's terrible. However, to then follow that up with losing 2-1 to Stranraer on a miserable night and looking as if we could really lose to anybody, you have to say, well, anybody running a football club has to say, well, okay, that's completely unacceptable now, and we have to make changes. And nobody. I actually feel really bad about somebody losing their job or anything like that. I mean, I don't like that at all. I'd much rather keep everybody and everything works well and we stay in the league and all that. But that's the nature of football business. If you go into it, you have to accept that. And I just think that, unfortunately, there's been a catalogue of things that have gone wrong this season. I think we've had terrible injuries, absolutely. But we haven't. There's been certain things that haven't happened that needed to happen. One is the goalkeeping position for me, which is a massive thing. Accies are always going to be under pressure in the Premiership, so we really need a good goalkeeper. And while Fulton can be okay at times, he's not good enough consistently. And I haven't even watched the goals from Sunday, but apparently...
You don't want to.
Well, I know, it's emotionally dramatic. I don't want to at all. Apparently, if we'd had a really good goalkeeper in, it might have been a wee bit less embarrassing. I don't know. But tonight, certainly, when I looked at... that goal that he let in, the first goal, and even the second goal, he was nowhere for the cross. It was just not good enough. So that's a recruitment matter. I'm sure he's a reasonable number 2, Fulton, if your keeper gets injured. But I think that's been a big problem. We didn't get somebody in, and we needed to get somebody in. That's one example. Other examples are some of the other players he's got just haven't really performed. But when I look at the team, I looked at the team tonight and thought, right, that team should be able to beat Stranraer. Yeah. And I know that I think the lack of organisation, I think, was evident. And I don't know. I mean, I hate saying it. I don't get any pleasure out of this at all. It's miserable. But if we go on like this, then we'll get relegated. I just tweeted that. If we go on like this, we'll get relegated. And we've got a wee chance of maybe avoiding it if we get somebody in that can inject some enthusiasm into them. And, the COVID scenario is terrible. I don't know whether it'd be any different if we had fans. I doubt it, because all the other opposition teams would have fans as well. So I don't think that's it. I think it's just, we just have to suck it up and make the difficult decisions that need to be made, unfortunately.
This team's been oh, sorry.
Carry on, you've
gone. Neil, your name's Neil. We've let the team off this season, right, from the no fans being there. Because see, if there was fans there, we would have given them no amount of pelters. Honest to God, how horrendous. If we went to Rangers, man, we would do it by fucking 4-0. It's just not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with you there, Neil, that I think the fans would make our position absolutely clear if we were in grounds at the moment. But Stephen's bang on about the fact that our recruitment in the summer just hasn't been good enough. And I think the critical thing there is that it's not just the goalkeeping position, it's the fact that we don't have a spine. There's no spine in that. The thing about Alex Neil's team was it was brilliant. You knew, and Billy Reid's as well, from that perspective, there was a spine to that team. But also, you had real organisation. You had a manager who could send a team out and they knew how to play, they knew what positions they were going to play, they could control a ball. That's one of my big things with this team is so many of them can't even control. They can't trap a ball. They can't pass a ball. That comes down to what's happening in the coaching and how the manager's setting them up. There doesn't seem to be any idea of how to. I just think that where Rice is at the moment is, yeah, he's trying to play attractive football, but it's gone to a point where he's lost control of it, and he doesn't have the wherewithal to pull it back. I don't
think he's even trying to play attractive football anymore.
Nah,
how many shots?
How
many shots at goal did we have?
Oh, we didn't have any. Yeah, you know.
And Saturday, Sunday. Sorry,
I don't think I've watched us playing an attractive game of football probably at all this season.
I know you mean what you're saying, Tat, is right. At first when he came in, it was compared to Cannon. He came in. He always set up with two strikers, so it was attractive for us as Accies fans to watch this guy come in and set our team up. My God, this guy's trying to win a game. You know, he comes in, and we've not got the players to play with.
No, we don't.
The strikers are rotten. We should be playing with name. They're not even two. They're all rotten. And he's lost. There's nothing for me. There's nothing that makes me want to watch Hamilton anymore. It's
hard to say.
It's boggling.
It's bad enough as what it is with the whole COVID situation, not being able to go to games. But when you're having to watch this for your own house, watching 6 of the past 7 games, getting beat extremely comfortably, shifting an average of 3.7 goals per game. And two of the teams are
16 minutes, isn't it?
Two of the teams are lower end Division 2 teams. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They boys have just came off a full on shift and then just went and easily beat us. It wasn't as if we've gave any sort of fight towards the game. It was
the boy that scored up front just came back after the ferry for fucking Ireland. He just drove the ferry for Ireland. Know what I mean?
You can't read the script to that, could you?
Nah, you can't. I guess their second win a year.
I think it's funny, you know, as Accies fans, we're kind of taught, right, okay, Tatty and me and Colin, and you know, I've been watching them since 1973, right? I know that's like when your grandpa was born, but what I'm trying to get at is some people think, well, you know, on all that time you were in the lowest league or, you know, tier 2, this is the first time since Ronnie and all of them took over, we had never survived in the top league since before the Second World War. So on one level you think, right, okay, it is better than losing 15 points for a player's strike, and it is better than being in the bottom league because we're in the Premiership. However, they've set the standards now, and there's no real reason why those standards have to drop because they're in the Premiership, they're getting the money for being in the Premiership, they can do it. So we're not expecting to be in the top 6 necessarily. Right, there's only one time we've had a chance of that, and Alec Neil unfortunately went to Norwich. Otherwise, we would have been in the top 6. But we're not expecting, but we are expecting to not go backwards.
Yeah.
Right, and at the moment we look.
I also think your point is important there, Steve, because what the fans do want is for us to move beyond this just abysmal mediocrity that we're in. Since we lost Alex Neil to Norwich, the thing that hasn't happened at all is that the club hasn't progressed in an upwards direction. There's just been nothing to. There's been no willingness and ambition shown to say, we want to take the club up a level.
They've never brought in like a manager that people know of.
And people are fed up watching that kind of football because it's not entertainment. And when you're spending a lot of money on it, and you know it's passionless. Now to say to use that broadly as a generalisation to some extent is unfair because there have been patches where we've played well in that period. You know, there's patches where Canning did well. You know, the game at Hibs where we were tremendous. You know, there are some things in there, to be fair to him, that he got right. You know, we've won at Ibrox, and Canning did that. Rice has done that as well. At the moment, this is the worst period of, you know, this Accies spell in terms of games that I've been watching for easily 15 to 20 years. And at the moment, you know, that was the worst defeat since John Lambie's team got beat 8-0 at home in 1988. So that's in the whole tenure that I've been watching Accies.
At the moment, the stadium's empty, isn't it? Because there's no fans. But see, if we do get back, say 2 or 3 months' time, to some, there'll be very few of us.
Yeah,
and I'm included, and my 2 boys as well. You know,
I'm not
think twice.
interested.
We'll think twice if we go to watch that.
Well, that's see. This is this is the problem. See, we're Accies, right? We're Accies now. What does that mean? That means that we've got a good excuse to not care because we're only Accies and we've got no fans and all blah blah blah. The club has not engaged with the local community properly probably since the Second World War.
No,
we've not fought to build a fan base, and that's been a real problem, and that makes us weak because other teams like Dunfermline, we all know them, Dunfermline, Falkirk, Partick Thistle, who are in lower leagues than us. You know, the media look at that and say, well, why are you moaning? Look, you're punching above your weight. Crap. But that is crap because we know what we're capable of because they've set the standards. You've got us into the Premiership. We're capable of it. We've got good facilities. There's no reason why we can't do it. So at the moment, if the board are happy for us to get relegated, don't make changes. But if you don't want to get relegated, you must make the change because we seem to me to be on a. How do you recover from 8-0? How do you recover from 3 point? You must be a better mathematician than me, Brandon. 3.7 goals per game. How do you recover from that? You know, how do you recover from 8-0 and losing to Stranraer? That is really, really hard.
Flying Aaron into the mix as well. It's just unacceptable.
Sorry, Stephen, I didn't hear that.
Flying Aaron into the mix as well is just totally unacceptable. It's just totally unacceptable for a Premiership team. Whether you've got, yes, the least budget in the team, yes, you might not have the strongest squad, you might not have the budget, but it's not acceptable. Rangers 8-0, you don't expect 8-0, but you expect a thrashing. Aaron and Stranraer is absolutely unacceptable, and that is why I will be there on Saturday to tell them what I think, because I don't think us as fans can't accept this anymore, because in the recent years it's been, you're Hamilton Accies, what do you expect? Yeah. No, we deserve to go down there and tell them exactly how we think. And for me, Sunday was more about Aaron than the 8-0 thrashing. And on Saturday, it'll be more about Stranraer than the 8-0 thrashing. I'm going down there to say, this is unacceptable. You need to change something now. And if you don't change something, it tells me that you don't care about us as a football club.
If he's not gone by Saturday, that shows that they don't care and he will not go. He has to be gone in the morning. He needs to be gone. He
survived Aaron. He survived 8-0 as well. And if he survives Stranraer as well, Jesus, what the hell? Look, come on.
I mean, I think the thing is, to your point, Stephen, I think the thing about that is that he should have been sacked after Aaron. You know?
Aye, 100%.
That's the consensus.
Well, I remember being at Annan the first time when we lost in the Cup 4-1.
That was a fucking joke, man.
And
that was bad.
My memory is terrible, but for goodness sake, the defender that went to Aberdeen, he came back.
Michael Devlin.
Aye, he came back and he was off. So it was terrible. And I thought then, I drove up the road, up the M74 going, how does a manager keep his job after that? How do you do that? But he did. And it went on and on and on. We've surely learned our lesson. You can't. It's an inexorable slide to a disaster. You've got to get fresh injection of enthusiasm. And I don't know who it would be, but you've got to do something. That's the main issue.
Who wants to come to Hamilton Accies?
Who would want to watch what Brian Rice is getting up to now and think, gee, right, it means that if you're a young manager, an experienced manager, how are you going to go there and prove yourself? How are you going to go there? With no back, how are you got to go there and prove you're a manager? You want to progress your managerial career? How are you got to do that?
I'd put it this way and say the other teams we're competing against aren't anything special. He could come in and easily keep Accies up in this league, because you look at your St Mirrens, your St Johnstones, your Livingstons this season. They're on the exact same boat as us. It's just we're playing a lot worse.
It's one of two things, Brandon. It's either that actually that squad is so mediocre that no manager would get the best out of them, or
I think they don't care.
The manager can't cut it, and I do think that it's the latter. I think there is some quality in that squad, and admittedly our best players got a long-term injury, but I think that before David Templeton got injured, we were on this trajectory. We were falling into that, and it's down to the fact that the manager does not know how to set his team up. He said it himself. He doesn't know what his best 11 is. He doesn't know how to set them up. And
he's not got a certain philosophy or style of play either.
No. We need a psychology that says we want to win and we're going out to win and we'll be hard to beat. And that needs to be instilled back into our players, and that needs to.
I think you're right, Ty. That's what gives me hope. I think there has been a poor recruitment, absolutely. However, I've seen all the players, and I've seen them when they first came in, even to this year, and thought, oh, he's quite useful. He could be quite useful. Oddifin, for example, amazing player, considering he'd never scored for Livingston. He comes up and he scores all, So there's definitely talent there. But in football, it's all about psychology and confidence and runs. You've got a run of bad performances, then everything goes bad. To turn that round, sometimes nobody can turn that round. So you need to get somebody in to do that. And I'm not happy sitting here saying I think Brian Rice should be out of a job. I hate saying it. I really do. But it's football, and if we don't make these difficult changes, and maybe if all the players had been fit, maybe it wouldn't have got to this, but it has got to this, and you have to make changes, I think.
But I think the other thing that I think is really important for us as a group of fans to say tonight, as this goes out, is to say we have the best interests of Hamilton Accies at heart. Yeah. People are not coming on saying these things and going on to Twitter because they enjoy doing that. That's a last resort. People are going on and doing that not because they've got some kind of twisted, nastiness about them. They're doing that because they care about the club. They're trying to do that in as constructive a manner as they can without getting too excited. But they're trying to get the point across that this needs to happen now.
There's nothing more that I would love than not be having to go onto Twitter every day and come across like a negative, moody, decrepit bastard every time. And I'm getting people retweeting my tweets, pinging my tweets into group chat, slagging me off and all that because, oh, look at this, all the Motherwell fans laughing. I don't want to be doing that.
What group chat right there? There's comments of me saying at half time it says Stranraer 1, Hamilton 0. My work group chat, what is it? Me popping up in Aki's Twitter saying you're a bunch of shite bags. I don't find that funny. It's embarrassing I'm having to do that to the club to say you're shite bags. You're getting beat off a bunch of boys with £30 a week that work in chip shops. It's embarrassing. Totally embarrassing.
How do you know they work in chip shops?
It's as if the club are looking for a bite.
I do want to touch on the talent thing though, because when all the fans went down to meet Brian, I think you can hear it in the video. Brandon says the whole philosophy of Hamilton, or the spirit behind Hamilton, of being hard to beat and being full of pride and full of passion is totally 100% gone. There is no passion and no pride in that team whatsoever.
No reaction.
And as Brandon said,
and there was a reaction tonight.
Yeah, and as Brandon said on the night, we have a reputation of being hard to beat, and that is totally, completely gone. I'm assuming you guys all agree that it's not coming back at this stage.
I think he summed it up. He says at the time on Sunday that he'll be making sure that everything we've says he'll drilled into the players to get a reaction. Well, if he's drilled all that into the players, that shows that they clearly couldn't give a fuck about him.
Fuck.
You know what I mean?
Aye.
Well, the thing is, though, right? I mean, what you were saying, right? Okay, here's something. I heard I heard the recording. It was quite hard because there was trains going by and all sorts of carry on, right? But no criticism, Ben, obviously, right?
Well, it wasn't my audio. I'm not taking any credit for it.
Oh, no, okay, that's fine, right, okay. But
I think you should, Ben.
It was not
what I would like, wait a minute. What I'd like to say, Brandon's questions were good and his comments were good, and Brian said, "I'll take that to the players." Now, immediately I thought, really? What, you're going to go into the players and say, I met some fans outside and they said that there's no heart, so what are you going to do about it? No, that's no. If that's what you have to do, and I'm not saying it is, but he's lost. He's to do it, right? He doesn't have to say, I'm going to tell them what you said. You should be saying it and saying it in no uncertain terms.
You shouldn't need us to tell them that.
Unacceptable. Because I'm sorry, Brandon, I'm not saying you're not a genius, right? But what you were saying to him wasn't exactly difficult. It's kind of obvious. So if he's saying, "Well, I'll take that to the fans," and he doesn't know it, but he probably does know it. He's just saying it because he does. he will respect us. He knows what it's like to be a football fan. He said when he came in, he'd like nothing more than us to be able to go out on a Saturday night after a game with our pals and talk about how much we'd enjoyed it. That's what he wanted. And the fact is, if you can't give us that, then that's it, really. Yeah. I mean, you know, if Stephen's going to be depressed because he's getting murdered on Twitter by Motherwell fans and he's depressed, all depressed. Well, that's there's only one thing you can do about that, and that's get the team out there and playing as if they want to play. Tonight, Stranraer, horrible night, terrible pitch. These are all excuses. No team in Accies should be going there and losing 2 goals like that. No matter how bad the pitch is, you should have defenders that will, you know, none shall pass kind of thing. And that's it. You should be able to do that. Yeah. I think it's just appalling. Just appalling.
Ben, can I just add one other little thing? And this is just something that...
Yeah, we'll just bring it back.
I just want to... See, when they're talking about the football club, I want to hear the representatives of Hamilton Academical calling this Hamilton Academical, speaking about Accies, right? They singularly, constantly don't do that. There is a gap in the identity of what it is to be an Accies fan. And I think, to some extent, that is part of the problem. There's such a disconnect. And that needs to change. You need to actually get with what it is to be an Accies fan.
I think as well, Ben, before we close, I don't think the problem all solely lies with Brian Rice.
No.
He's got his own coaching team there that have also part of the Cannon tenure, i.e. Boozy. I don't think it's fair if Rice was to go that Boozy would be allowed to stay. I thought it was a bit of an abysmal choice that Cannon left and Boozy got to stay as part of Rice's coaching staff, so I think he needs to go along with Rice. And I don't know, I've got a feeling we'll hear something for Accies in the morning. As much as that shouldn't be strange to hear, because he should be out the door now, I think we'll hear something for Accies in the morning.
Yeah, Brandon, they'll have to make some kind of statement. They'll have to, if they're not going to make a change, then they have to come out and somehow try and justify the fact that they're not making a change, which I think would be quite difficult. But they can't just retreat in silence. I don't think that's actually worthy of them, to be honest. Tati, what you're saying about this life, the soul of the club is really important. And the problem we've got, I mean, I don't know if any of you watched the documentary about Hearts earlier in the week.
Yeah.
Now, they've got fans that are all paying, and I've got friends that are Hearts fans that are paying their £10 a month because they're going to own the club. So that's together we are going with that. Now, when we put up an election candidate in the 1999 Hamilton South by-election candidate, we were together and we had a common cause and we were doing something. Admittedly, we couldn't buy the club. There weren't enough of us. But now we're in, as Tati says, there's a complete disconnect. You've got the people running the club who basically get the income from the stadium. They've set up a good business model. They don't really need us. And boy, do they make us feel as if they think they don't need us. Yeah. And that's a real problem because they don't need us. They don't actually need our money, really. I don't think they do. But a football club without fans, as the other famous Hamiltonian Jock Steen said, football games without fans are nothing. And okay, we've not got fans because of COVID, but we need to have a decent team that's playing their hearts out for the jerseys that we are, and then we get behind them. And the club at the moment is disconnected, and I don't know how. They've got to get back to the days where they had meetings and they told us that they cared, and that's got to be people like Ronnie and people like Alan Maitland who have got a bit of charisma connecting with the fans again. They've got to start to do that again, otherwise we're just going to get more and more depressed.
What they need to know, Stephen, is that we're all on Zoom and they've all got Zoom accounts as well. There's no reason why they can't have a fans forum tomorrow so that we can discuss this.
Exactly.
We can't go to the board because of COVID, but we can all get on a Zoom call, so they need to make that happen. We're here, we'll talk to them. We've got no fear of that. We don't want to have to talk about fear. We want to be able to have...
just put a mask on Saturday and get down there.
We want to be able to
get down there right now.
Honestly, down there. Tell me
what we want to be able to have that discussion face to face in an effective way and put the points across without there being and it's important.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Very important.
Well, as Taxi, if Rice isn't away in the morning, or if Hamilton don't release a statement within the coming days, I think a serious amount of people need to get in that statement to prove a point to the club on Saturday, majorly to the club, the players, the board of directors. A socially distance meeting again needs to happen, because obviously Sunday night didn't work. It didn't. It's not worked. Has it worked? The players get booed after the bus and none of them gave a shit tonight, and that's the end of it. Simple as that.
I think that sums it up pretty well, guys.
You're laughing, Niall. It's no funny, mate. It's no funny.
It's
Honestly, no funny. I don't find it funny at all. Because I'm fucking embarrassment, mate.
Thanks.
Just laugh.